If you've got one of these old Ender 3s or someone gave it to you, or maybe you bought one really cheap online, one of the upgrades I like to recommend is the EZR Extruder from SeeMeCNC. You can still buy these on sale. They're a great upgrade to the Bowden style Ender 3. And I made a video on this several years ago, so I'm going to replay this Classic Filament Friday for you. And then stick around to the end because I got 2 more tips that work with this thing that I didn't cover in the video. So let's get right into it.
In this week's episode, I'll show you another way to print really flexible filament on an Ender 3, CR10 Mini, or a CR10. And we'll use it to print these really nice flexible feet for my Ender 3 to make it run a little bit quieter. I'll show you how I did it on today's Filament Friday. Filament Friday is brought to you by the generous donations of these Patreon supporters. In my previous video, I showed how you could 3D print a replacement extruder top for your CR10 Mini. And then you insert a small section of PTFE tube that's cut at an angle to go between the gear and the idler wheel. And that allowed me to print very flexible Ninja Flex or 85A shore hardness TPU. Very, very flexible. Well, I found something better. It's the SeeMeCNC EZR. This is designed for the PTFE tube to come all the way in, and it's actually designed to go between the gear and the idler wheel, so the Ninja Flex can't escape in any way, shape, or form. And the best part is you can mount this on just about any extruder top, including the Ender 3, CR10 Mini, and CR10. So I'm going to install this on my Ender 3. But before I do that, let me explain the differences in TPU. Because I had some people say they could print TPU on their Ender 3 or CR10 Mini without any modification. It depends on what type of TPU you have and what shore hardness it is. Let me explain the type of material we're going to print on the Ender 3. It's this very, very flexible material. It's like a rubber band. It'll stretch and return to form. This is a 85A shore hardness TPU, which stands for thermoplastic polyurethane. The U is urethane. So this is an 85A shore hardness, which is different than other TPUs. There's some TPUs that are semi-flex, or they're flexible but not nearly as flexible as this. This one is like pushing a rope. It does not want to go through any gap. So this will get caught in the stock Ender 3. Now some people have said they've printed TPU fine on their Ender 3 with the stock extruders. Like this one is TPU. It's flexible. I can wrap it around and it comes right back. But it's stiffer. It's almost a semi-flex. So this one will actually push through gaps. So this TPU would print without any modification. But printing this flexible stuff, this is much, much more difficult. And a lot of times it's labeled Ninja Flex. I think that's just a brand name. But that's what I wanted to print on here because this is really, really handy for making all kinds of little practical prints. The first step is to disconnect the PTFE tube from the coupling or just unscrew it and then pull the wires out of the way. The next step was to loosen the set screws and remove the stepper motor gear. The Allen wrench that fits this is actually included in the EZR kit. The next step was to loosen and remove the screw that holds the pivot arm in place. Once that's out of place, I could remove the spring. The next step was to remove the 3 screws that hold the extruder top to the motor. Now you want to hold the motor when you do this because when that final screw is removed, the motor will drop because there's nothing else holding it in place. There's 4 Phillips head screws that go into the EZR extruder top. I put those screws in place and that way I could set the whole unit on top of the motor and bracket and tighten it up. There's no pivoting arm or spring to worry about. That's built into the EZR extruder top. Just tighten these 4 screws and then on to the next step. The EZR extruder comes with its own gear and you slide that in with the teeth on top and push it down to just about flush with the top of the EZR. In fact, mine was just slightly recessed. You want to get that lined up with the hole where the filament comes in. The next step was actually the hardest part. I had to push the PTFE tubing in so hard because of that metal coupling. In fact, Capricorn tubing was too tight, so I went with the standard PTFE tubing. I had to push that in until it bottomed out in the channel.
Before we move on, let me introduce you to my E-Leveler module. The Filament Friday E-Leveler makes it easier to adjust your bed. You just slide it underneath the nozzle, adjust the knob until the light just turns on, do it at each corner, and you'll have a level bed. Then run the squares test to show a perfectly level bed. The Filament Friday E-Leveler comes with full instructions, so get yours today.
The final step was just to install the knob that goes on top of the stepper motor, and this thing is really handy. You use this to manually wind the filament in, and with this flexible filament, it worked fantastic. The kit came with a lock for the coupling, but it fit so tight it probably didn't need it, but I put it on anyway. This is the 85A Ninja Flex filament that I'm going to actually use. I used this in my previous video when I printed the flexible octopus, so I'm going to feed this into the EZR Extruder. The first thing I had to do is press the red button to release the wheel, the idler wheel that goes against the gear, and then I used the thumb wheel to load the filament. I continued to rotate this until the filament squeezed out the nozzle, which I had preheated to 220 degrees. I found this Ender 3 foot design that slides into a 20 by 40 aluminum extrusion, so I decided to print this. The print stuck to the bed really well but pulled right off, and when I squished it I couldn't see any flaws. I think the extruder did a fantastic job, so I printed 3 more. To test it and to show you how this works, I actually snapped it on the top of the rail. It snapped in place, slid along the rail just fine, but still is a little bit difficult to remove, which is what you want. So I lifted the printer up to put it in its proper place, it snapped into the rail, and I have my first foot. Now I needed to install 3 more. So I put the printer on its side, got the 3 other feet, and I popped them in place. One at the back, one at the opposite front, and then one at the back. And that one was the only tough one. It fought me a little bit, but then snapped in place. So the real test was how did it feel and how did it work once it was placed on the bench. I could already tell this thing's going to be quieter. It was softer when I put it down, and that bench top is like a speaker. It'll amplify any vibration. And this is definitely going to help quiet it down. I was a little concerned that the printer movement might cause the whole printer to shake because of those feet, but after I printed with it, I could see it was working just fine. So there you have it, another option to improve your Ender 3 to print flexible material. I'll put a link to this EZR in the description below. It is an affiliate link. It helps out the channel if you buy through that link.
There's 2 things that I recommend that I didn't cover in the video when you're installing the EZR. The first one is just take a drill bit by hand and drill the PTFE tubing to make a funnel at the front of it. So when you slip it in, it's easier to install filament. It's like a ramp. The next tip is to use the spring that came out of the Ender 3 originally in your EZR, not the one that comes with it. The one that comes with it is actually too strong, and it can actually crush some filaments, some soft filaments, so it won't go through the PTFE tubing, and then you get an incomplete print. And you won't find out until you're like mid-print. I found this out the hard way. So use the original spring instead of this new one, and you'll get much better results, and the EZR will work just fine. You can still get the EZR. In fact, you can get it on sale. I'll put a link to it in the description below. One thing you should check before you buy an EZR is the gear on your Ender 3. Some of them are press fit onto the shaft of the motor, not set screws like I showed. And so that's hard to get off. You either got to cut it or grind it or get a puller to get it off, or you got to buy a new motor, which can be even more expensive. Now, the EZR does come with its own gear that goes onto the shaft with set screws, and it's designed to go properly in place in the EZR. Some people have used it with the fixed gear and got it to work. I haven't really tried that, but I'm just giving you a heads up. Check your gear first before you spend any money. You may have a pressed on gear instead of a removable one with set screws. So I hope this helps you out. It's another option to improve your Ender 3. I want to give a big shout out to my current Patreon supporters. Thank you for making these videos possible. And here's a few other videos you might like. If you want to help support the channel, Patreon's the best way to do it. And if nothing else, click on that logo and subscribe. I'll see you next time right here at Chuck Hollenbach's Electronic Products and Filament Friday.